Hi gang, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Monday, and that means jazz. And today we're looking at one of the crooners, a fellow we've talked about a couple of times before. But in my last record acquisition from Wendy and Bert, I got another album of his that I think is kind of rare. The artist we're looking at today is Frank Sinatra. Yeah, you remember, we've talked about Frank a number of times. We've talked about the Rat Pack. We've talked about Frank's albums on his own. And this one, Frank, Love Is a Kick. I'll bring it back so you can see the whole album. It's one that's been hard for me to find. I tried to look it up on the streaming networks, didn't see it there. I went on a search engine to get some information about the album because there's not a lot on these. Couldn't find a lot about it there. I find places where Amazon's selling it, eBay's selling it, a lot of private sellers, but not a lot of places where this was commercially available. Now, album on Columbia, around 1958, I believe. And this is a funny album in the fact that it's listed as a compilation album. Not a greatest hits, although it's all previously recorded material that they put together for an album. Now, how's that different? Well, maybe it's not the hits you're expecting, right? We all think of Fly Me to the Moon, New York, New York, Strangers in the Night. This is maybe predating some of that. Now, what I didn't like about it, well, first thing, there's the album cover. There's the back of the album. And you'd think, well, there's a lot of information there, but that's really just information about other albums. The big problem, no listing of who's playing on here. And you know how much I like that. You know how much I like to see who the studio musicians are that were backing him up. And in these days, again, late 50s, they really didn't give much credit to the musicians. The star was Frank, the band, and sometimes he would wait to record things to a certain time till players he preferred to have with him were available. So the players were important to him. They just didn't get listed on the records when the albums were released. Now this one's also unique. This was back in the era when it was strictly mono albums. Now, you may not know what I'm talking about. Anybody from my era, we, at one point, I'm going to say in the mid-60s, we had mono and stereo. And you guys, younger ones, would take stereo for granted, but back in the earlier days, mono just meant you had one speaker. Once we got to stereo, where you could split the sound and you had things coming out of different speakers, and then by the 1970s, we're into quadraphonic, right? How many remember that? Handful of albums got produced in quadraphonic. Nowadays, I mean, the sound production is just crazy what you can do with it. But back in this day, mono, one speaker. So that made the album unique in itself. Tunes on it, You Do Something to Me, Bim Bam Baby, My Blue Heaven, When You're Smiling, Saturday Night, and Bye Bye Baby, Side 2, The Continental, Deep Night, Should I, American Beauty Rose, 5 Minutes More, and Farewell, Farewell to Love. Now, some recognizable tunes on people that might be from my era on there. And again, you're not going to go wrong with Frank. If you've followed our other shows, I mean, he is one of the legends. I think talk about the Rat Pack, him and Dean Martin especially. Dean Martin's another one of my favorites to listen to. But Dean's choice of material was not the same as Frank. I mean, Frank was doing material that was always fresh, always new. There's a great album from the Sands with him and the Count Basie Band. And I know he had Count Basie backing him up before. I think Woody Herman backed him up a few times. He was one to really promote the big bands. He was one that put out great albums, great singer, and right through his whole career. You can't go wrong putting on a little Sinatra. And this album in itself, like I say, because it is harder to find, makes it a little more unique. It's classic performances by him. And again, my only criticism of the album, not crediting the musicians. I really would have loved to know who was playing on the albums with them. So, single set on Columbia, mono, 1958, Frank Sinatra, Love Is a Kick. Start off your week with a little bit of jazz. Okay, that's it for today. Frank Sinatra. Back on Wednesday with classic rock. Friday, we're back. We're still continuing that 80s Fridays, so join us for that. And until then, Everybody take care. Stay safe. See you on Wednesday.